All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Namcios. I work at UTXO Management. We are a liquid and illiquid fund focused on the Bitcoin ecosystem. We seek to support companies building in the space. And I'm joined today by Jack Lee, managing partner at HCM Capital. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jack. I'm the managing partner of HCM Capital. Recently, we call ourselves HCM as a hardcore money. Anyway, so I've been building the HCM for about almost 10 years. At the early day on the technology investment, it's a VC and growth fund. From technology investment into fintech space and to crypto and to blockchain. But then recent 3 to 4 years, I realized only Bitcoin is the way to go. So we dedicate more on the Bitcoin early stage investment, and also I'm based in Asia Pacific, so we also helping education, helping even incubate good Bitcoin project in that region.
Jack, I think it's really interesting a point that you mentioned there, specifically on how HCM used to do a lot of crypto investments, but then you came around and in 2021, right, you decided, no, I'm just gonna invest into Bitcoin companies. I'm gonna be focused on Bitcoin. How did that happen? I think it would be interesting to get to know more of the back end of that story.
Sure, yeah. I think the turning point is the COVID. When 2020, the COVID hit. So especially, people like me have been living in Taiwan, China, Hong Kong at that time. I got several times of a quarantine, 14 days each at least. And then I forced myself to think about in the past 5 years, 4 years, I've been in the crypto, blockchain investment area. Why most of the project, there's a bull market, ICO boom, and then it came down. But however, why there's no real use case? Except stablecoin. But even though at that time stablecoin is still a little bit not that being recognized as of today. So during those quarantine days, I think totally add up maybe more than 2 months. I've been studying, I've been listening to like a Sarah series, What is the Money Show? I spent a lot of time to think through why. And then I realized, we need a decentralized business world. However, it's only Bitcoin work, no other. Then also I realized that's my interpretation. Nowadays, even though there's still have I don't know how many, 10,000, 20,000 cryptocurrency. Of course, there's a lot of scam there. However, there's some good technology innovation. There's nothing wrong with them. But it gotta be security. It gotta be, it's more like, it's nothing wrong with them if for the good project. It's a technology company. Indeed, it's a project company. It's a project. So it got to be regulated as a digital equity or whatever security. So I believe maybe United States or some other country will follow, will do that. However, Bitcoin is the money, right? Bitcoin is the best money ever. Especially we are living in the digital world right now. So it's a digital gold. And also it's a truly scales. So this is the best asset we ever be able to own. So when I realized this, I get more and more really being enchanted, and then I think I will dedicate the rest of my life in the Bitcoin space and help not only investment, but also help to build and educate as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned how you still see like some technological advancements in the broader crypto ecosystem, and how you are able to differentiate between Bitcoin and that. How do you think about Bitcoin, the ecosystem, instead of just Bitcoin, the currency and the hard money? Do you see like any of those technologies being ported onto Bitcoin? Because at UTXO Management, I think one of our main theses right now is the Bitcoin Season 2 thesis, that we believe that most, if not all, of the actual use cases, the ones that find product market fit on crypto, will eventually and inevitably be built on Bitcoin, on the Bitcoin ecosystem, on the Bitcoin financial system. So just curious on your thoughts on that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. After almost 4 years of my Bitcoin journey, what I've been realized, because by the way, I want to mention, I've been working in before this crypto and Bitcoin thing, I've been working in the financial, I've been working in banking, I've been working for US major bank all day, and also technology company, big technology company, totally maybe 20 years before I came into the recent year journey. So from my experience, I've been seeing Bitcoin, as we mentioned, is a good store of value. It's a digital gold. There's no doubt. However, because of this is a new system, new, we would say in the future, when gradually from store of value to into more and more people recognize as the unit of account. So naturally, it will become kind of a medium of exchange, at least part of that, part of the current fiat system. Okay, so until then, I think Bitcoin will serve as a two kind of value. One is the store of value as a digital gold. The other is that you can use the technology Bitcoin has, which is a decentralized, it's a censorship resistant, it's a very secure, it's a peer-to-peer, etc. I think everyone knows. To some kind of technology being invented or to be created can help to improve our daily life. For example, Lightning. I think Lightning is one of the most mature application. We say layer 2 or whatever. So for example, now the Lightning is being popular, even though Lightning cannot make Bitcoin become a medium exchange, because we're already living in a very mature fiat system. It's been dominated by this kind of centralized network. So we have to admit it. We cannot change it through the Bitcoin right away. However, for example, like Lightning, there's some special feature which fiat currency doesn't have. US dollar or the Visa banking system that don't have. It's like streaming, it's like a splitting bill. I think that kind of thing is the new technology which the current centralized financial system cannot replace. Also, it's a streaming SaaS, right? So it's a micropayment. I think this is just one or two example. I believe more and more with this kind of embedded technology from Bitcoin or Bitcoin other layer, then there will be more and more technology can be embedded into our daily life or even business usage.
Yeah, I think we all agree that we hope that, you know, Bitcoin acceptance and Bitcoin just keeps flourishing and being spread as a technology, right? Yeah. And then when you look at companies, right? As a VC, I know you do get a lot of pitches, a lot of decks, and all sorts of DMs and emails. Currently, what is your focus when you think about, hey, this is a company I would invest in, or this is not something that I'm interested in? What is HCM's broadly current focus in terms of investable companies?
Okay, yeah. In summary, I think two parts. One part is that because I think we are still relatively in the early stage of this Bitcoin standard world. So to make the Bitcoin from early days, cyberpunk, to now more and more individual recognize Bitcoin is the good money, and now starting like a MicroStrategy, right? Corporation and country like El Salvador and maybe probably US, hopefully, then will be more and more individual, more and more company, more and more institutional investor. This year, of course, we say it's a year one, right? Through the ETF first, that's okay. And also we talk about corporation and also national state. So helping those either individual or company or institution or country to embrace the Bitcoin. I think if the startup, the project, doing that in the right way, in a good way, I think that's the one area we are interested in to invest because they are helping those potential user, potential Bitcoin accumulator user from either small to big, right, to adopting Bitcoin. I think this is the right direction. And the other is the other direction will be more like to embed the Bitcoin as a part of the innovation. Not only put the Bitcoin as a payment. Okay, say I'm the Bitcoin payment company, I'm Bitcoin app. But indeed, we are already living in a very mature payment system, which is dominated by fiat, by US dollar, by the centralized banking system. So I would rather more interesting to look at the project who can use the Bitcoin as an idea to embed it into their, I mean, even Nostr, for example, Nostr is good for decentralized information, right? But it's embedding Bitcoin Lightning payment into their usage, into their application or product or service, right? So, for example, Nostr is just one example. Even other area, non-Bitcoin, however, embrace the similar concept of self-sovereignty, of censorship resistance, of decentralization, with that kind of spirit into the project, into the service, which can always, I think since the internet, we always keep saying, what kind of project can be successful? Of course, a network effect needed. But at the beginning, you got to reduce costs, or you got to increase some benefit of people usage, right? So whatever creation by embrace this kind of new technology, for example, we mentioned about even like Lightning, the streaming, those things, and then adding into your product innovation, your project innovation. I think in particular region or country, I think that would be some direction we are interested in. Instead of, I say, we are Bitcoin company. We are some technology tool, So I still more like an internet, more like 20 years ago or 15 years ago when Facebook, when Google came out, right? When the TCP/IP, the internet getting prevailing, there's some company like Google or Facebook, they inventing this for user to easier, or even Uber, right? Uber 15 years ago. So it's same thing. If they can embrace this kind of new technology, new decentralized censorship resistance built into the product innovation, I think that would be something interesting. And Bitcoin is a part of it only.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned Facebook, Google, Uber, because I don't know about you, but I feel that a lot of Bitcoin companies these days, they don't seem to actually look for an actual problem that exists and then build a solution, which is usually the startup way, right? You find an addressable market and then you build a product for that market. You don't build a product and then go looking for a market, right? And so I think that's the main issue with companies struggling to find product market fit. It's because you haven't done the market research to then build the product, so it's tough to combine the two. And then you mentioned as well, because just to finish that off, I think the VC dream is to see a company that has a very clear problem to solve and that is doing a very good solution to that problem. And then when you mention Lightning and Nostr, I do agree they're cool technologies, but I think they underline the main issue that we have in Bitcoin right now, which is user experience, right? If we're thinking about, for example, a Nostr, okay, it's pretty straightforward. You can download Damus on the App Store or some other client, and then you can just use it regularly, right? I do think, however, that, and we've seen that happen with Lightning, so I wouldn't want to see the same happen with Nostr, is that it can become a very, very niche technology with huge UX barriers that stop it from being like truly used and from finding a very big product market fit. So I think companies right now focused on solving the UX problem, which, you know, as much as we don't like other chains, right, we love and work on Bitcoin, it's undeniably, UX difference is undeniably large. So I think any company that's focused on bridging this gap, working on this UX issue, and then working on real world problems, like problems of real people, and simplifying that, I think can be very successful.
Yeah, actually, I want to add some comment on this, especially you mentioned about Nostr. I also mentioned about Nostr earlier. Yeah, this is a good example. I know, especially I'm in Brazil, right? Nostr white paper is from he live in this country. And then, okay, talk about Nostr. I did invest in a company, Salentis, maybe he's here. Anyway, it's okay. I'm not particularly want to mention, but why I like this kind of idea is because that's the, also we sponsor Nostr booth here, right? You see there's Tanya, she's there. Woo! Yes, yeah. You know, okay, something I want to mention is that if purely, okay, the Nostr guys say, we want to decentralize, the Twitter, X, whatever, I don't think it will be really carry out well. Because the centralizer is already so much the network effect already there. Centralizer, people don't mind it's a centralizer. I just follow the rule, right? I don't tweet something bad, right? It's okay, then enjoy. It's the same as the centralized payment system. You know, people get used to it. You have to, right? So the disruption, it come a longer way. So that's why I would rather to encourage from my 1 year of a Nostr journey. I would rather to encourage Nostr people, you know, try to embrace a little bit centralized first, you know, try to, you know, make people, like you mentioned, right, the interface, the UI, US, easier to use. Not totally you want to do the opposite of a centralized one. However, for example, everyone you can keep your Nostr ID, which the old Web2 company cannot offer to you, right? So that's why, indeed, I want to mention, I do not purposely want to mention Salentis, but why I mention again is because you can have the same ID for your like Instagram plus the TripAdvisor plus whatever, Twitter, right? You know, you use the same ID. That's indeed is really something breakthrough. And also that's why I like a Nostr Boost idea, is that, I want to say it again, is because the individual project, you cannot do it on yourself to try to grow, try to compete with the existing Web2. So you have to unite it together. You have to get an alliance. Then, because that's what, as I said again, Web2 company cannot do. Because in your X, in your YouTube, in your Google and YouTube is same, Facebook, you have all different account in your Apple, right? But Nostr, you have a same ID, right? So that's what I'm trying to say is that, I mean, more Nostr company, number one, try to get at the initial stage a little bit centralized, get user feel more easy to use, you know, and later when people get used to it, when can share the same ID across the different platform, different project, then gradually I think this will become something impactful. And then I believe that's why Jack Dorsey, he's been a long-term proponent for Nostr, is this way. But I will encourage more Nostr project. You really try to unite it together and then try to make a good user experience for people to onboard, to like to use. That's the way to go.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think also a point that we are often reluctant to accept is that most people really put convenience above everything else, right? So is it that secure? Is it that private? Is it Well, most of the times it doesn't matter as much for the end user, right? So they want something quick, they want something easy, they want technology to make their lives easier. And so if there's a very cool product or a very cool service that you are building, that I'm building, that you're building, that whoever is building, but it takes an extra step, it takes an extra level of involvement, it is a barrier of entry, right?
Yeah.
It is, exactly, it compounds. And so I think if we look at the most successful products in this space, they have been the easiest to use, right? They have been the ones that make the experience convenient, they make a very compelling use case for the user. And so, yeah, like I agree, we need to strive for maximum decentralization, for maximum security, for maximum privacy, but we cannot deny the reality that most people just want convenience, right?
Yeah, fully agree, yes. Yeah, so I think that's the way to go. So hopefully we can see more and more this kind of, yeah.
And I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned, because when someone is building a company, right, be it in Brazil, in Asia, in the US, most of the times, or at least they should, be aware of the local regulations, right? What can I do here? What can I not do here? And you mentioned the US just now. I think during the Biden administration, we saw a sort of migration of companies and minds out of the US going overseas. We saw a lot of companies establishing hubs in Hong Kong. We saw a lot in the Middle East, at MENA. How do you see the importance of this new administration, right? Trump just got elected. How big of an importance do you feel that he follows through the promises and then helps establish a more welcoming jurisdiction in the US? And do you see those companies coming back? And do you see, how do you see the American ecosystem going?
Yeah, because, you know, right, Trump has been, because he's been talking in Bitcoin Nashville in July, late July, right? About those, and also a few crypto and Bitcoin guy has been lobbying him during those days. And on his speech, he already said that clearly. Even though, you know, right, since he got elected, whether it's 100 days or 200 days or 300 days, we don't know yet. However, I believe he will carry out some, okay?
Oh yeah, I mean, just let's, assuming that he does follow through. Yes. Of course, because it's a politician promise, you never know,
businessman.
right? It's I think somebody ran the numbers, and the hit rate is 30 to 40% of promises that are indeed kept. But assuming that he follows through and that he strives for what he said, how do you see the geopolitical landscape?
I see. It will be a very interesting thing to see. In my forecast, I think at least he will carry out. Okay, that's something I want to mention about, because I was from a technology company, even a manufacturer. Because in 2016, when he elected, what he keeps saying is that he want to bring American back to made in USA, right? And also I know he been called Tim Cook, something like that, you know. Anyway, we knew the result. But however, this Bitcoin thing or the crypto thing, I think it's easier to carry out than building a factory, okay? So I believe even though he carry out, let's say in the first year, 30% of what he said, still that's the big impact to the whole market, right? At least he won't go on that way like what Biden administration has done for the last 4 years. So he carry out 30%, 40% of what he said in the first year. I think that's the good enough for the whole world. Why? Because many countries is following US, right? Singapore, I mean, many places. China maybe a little bit different, but China even will watch what US doing. For example, if as a strategic reserve or strategic stockpile, that's something big, because it's a game theory. right? Then if the US buy in Bitcoin, then other countries will follow because, for example, I've been living in China more than 15 years. China top government is very smart. Yeah, you know, so put it as a strategic reserve and also try to have a new regulation on this Bitcoin or whatever crypto stuff. I think other countries will follow soon. So that's definitely a good year. I mean, very good year to come after Trump administration.
Yeah, and countries would not want to be left behind, right?
I mean, even though, I mean, many countries, even they want to go through their Congress because the US doing that, right? The US is leading the world for the last 90 years, 100 years. So it's easier to pass the law to follow, right? So as I say, even though Trump just do 30% of what he promised in the first year, still that's the big impact, that's a big influence to the whole world. So, so everyone, you know what you should do now.
And there's also a point to make that speaking for someone working at UTXO, right? What we see is a lot of companies have had to produce a lot of like specific paperwork or have had, well, we've seen like in TGE's company blocking US users so that they don't get a notice from the SEC.
All politicians like this around the world, it's the same. But when there's some clear indicator, this clear leader to follow, everything become accessory.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no. So I could see like a whole new breadth or slew of companies and projects being built in the U.S. again. And as you mentioned, I think the world tends to follow, right? They tend to watch what's happening. And when you mention game theory, I think it's also interesting because we saw that play out with mining, right? We saw China crack down on it, and then the US was, well, come here then, and then, yeah, now we have Marathon, Riot, CleanSpark, and a bunch of other companies that are just mining Bitcoin in there. So yeah, and I guess apart from this, when you look ahead, for the Bitcoin ecosystem and the crypto ecosystem at large, what excites you? What are the things that get you excited about the future? What would you like to see?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I came from a traditional financial world in my earlier career. So since I've been in this crypto plus Bitcoin journey for the last 8 years, I see that's why, I mean, at the beginning, why I was interested in crypto or blockchain is because I see this is really, it's like a financial technology innovation, right? Oh, it's a decentralized, something like that. But then I realized, oh, blockchain is just an airplane without the wings. Anyway, so then Bitcoin is the real deal. So I see it's coming, right? More and more people know Bitcoin is good. Bitcoin is not only good for anti-inflation, Bitcoin is not only good for good money, it also is even good for humanity, whatever. That's a lot of good things, right? So we see that such a good thing is leading the way, and more people understand it, embrace it, and also even accumulate it. So I think that's the most exciting thing to see in whatever aspect of, not only for investment, but usually we do investment is also to see this is the trend can help improve people's life. Like we mentioned those companies early day, Uber, Google, Facebook, right? So it's the same. I think this is a good thing for people, for mankind. So that's the most exciting thing I'm looking. And also why I spend more time in other part of Asia is because Asia relatively still, also I think still more follower, especially when China banned Bitcoin mining, banned all this kind of stuff. So I see more US and Europe, even now Latin America, right? People like El Salvador, right? Embrace the Bitcoin and country keep changing, keep getting better. So I also like to see this kind of experience, and then later it can also how can apply into Asia, because that's the huge population there. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, we just hit our time. Thank you very much, Jack. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.